All right, guys, so let's finish up SULA 1939. Only a few pages left. SULA began to discover what possession was. Not love, perhaps, but possession, or at least the desire for it. She was astounded by so new and alien a feeling. First, there was the morning of the night before when she actually wondered if Ajax would come by that day. Then there was an afternoon when she stood before the mirror, finger tracing the laugh lines around her mouth and trying to decide whether she was good looking or not. She ended this deep per usual by tying a green ribbon in her hair. The green silk made a rippling whisper as she slid into her hair, a whisper that could easily have been Hannah's chuckle, a soft, slow nasal hiss she used to emit when something amused her, like women sitting for 2 hours under the marceling irons only to wonder 2 days later how soon they would need another appointment. The ribbon tying was followed by other activity when Ajax came that evening, bringing her a reed whistle he had carved that morning. Not only was the green ribbon still in her hair, but the bathroom was gleaming. The bed was made and the table was set for two. He gave her the reed whistle, unlaced his shoes, and sat in the rocking chair in the kitchen. Sula walked toward him and kissed his mouth. He ran his fingers along the nape of her neck. "I bet you ain't even missed Tar Baby, have you?" he asked. "Missed? No. Where is he?" Ajax smiled at her delicious indifference. "Jail. Since when?" "Last Saturday. Picked up for drunk?" "Little bit more than that," he answered, and went ahead to tell her about his own involvement in another of Tar Baby's misfortunes. On Saturday afternoon, Tar Baby had stumbled drunk into traffic on the New River Road. A woman driver swerved to avoid him and hit another car. When the police came, they recognized the woman as the mayor's niece and arrested Tar Baby. Later, after the word got out, Ajax and two other men went to the station to see about him. At first, they wouldn't let them in, but they relented after Ajax and the other two just stood around for 1 hour and a half and repeated their request at regular intervals. When they finally got permission to go in and looked in at him in the cell, he was twisted up in a corner, badly beaten and dressed in nothing but extremely soiled underwear. Ajax and the other men asked the officer why Tar Baby couldn't have back his clothes. "It ain't right," they said, "to let a grown man lay around in his own shit." The policeman, obviously in agreement with Eva, who had always maintained that Tar Baby was white, said that if the prisoner didn't like to live in shit, he should come down out of those hills and live like a decent white man. More words were exchanged, hot words and dark, and the whole thing ended with the arraignment of the three black men and an appointment to appear in civil court Thursday next. Ajax didn't seem too bothered by any of it, more annoyed and inconvenienced than anything else. He had had several messes with the police, mostly in gambling raids, and regarded them as the natural hazards of Negro life. But Sula, the green ribbon shining in her hair, was flooded with an awareness of the impact of the outside world on Ajax. She stood up and arranged herself on the arm of the rocking chair, putting her fingers deep into the velvet of his hair. She murmured, "Come on, lean on me." Ajax blinked, and he looked swiftly into her face. In her words and her voice was a sound he knew well. For the first time he saw the green ribbon. He looked around and saw the gleaming kitchen and the table set for two, and detected the scent of the nest. Every hackle on his body rose, and he knew that very soon she would, like all of her sisters before her, put to him the death-knell question, "Where you been?" His eyes dimmed with a mild and momentary regret. He stood and mounted the stairs with her and entered the spotless bathroom where the dust had been swept from underneath the clawfoot tub. He was trying to remember the date of the air show in Dayton. As he came into the bedroom, he saw Sula lying on fresh white sheets wrapped in the deadly odor of freshly applied cologne. He dragged her under him and made love to her with the steadiness and the intensity of a man about to leave for Dayton. Every now and then she looked around for tangible evidence of his having ever been there. Where were the butterflies, the blueberries, the whistling reeds? She could find nothing, for he had left nothing but his stunning absence, an absence so decorative, so ornate it was difficult for her to understand how she had ever endured without falling dead or being consumed. His magnificent presence. The mirror by the door was not a mirror by the door. It was an altar where he stood for only a moment to put on his cap before going out. The red rocking chair was a rocking of his own hips as he sat in the kitchen. Still, there was nothing of his own, that she could find. It was as if she were afraid she had hallucinated him and needed proof to the contrary. His absence was everywhere, stinging everything, giving the furnishings primary colors, sharp outlines to the corners of rooms, and gold light to the dust collecting on tabletops. When he was there, he pulled everything toward himself. Not only her eyes and all her senses, but also inanimate things seemed to exist because of him, backdrops to his presence. Now that he had gone, these things, so long subdued by his presence, were glamorized in his wake. Then one day, burrowing in a dresser drawer, she found what she had been looking for, proof that he had been there, his driver's license. It contained just what she needed for verification, his vital statistics. Born 1901, height 5'11", weight 152, eyes brown, hair black, color black, oh yes, skin black, very black, so black that only a steady, careful rubbing with steel wool would remove it. And as if it was removed, there was the glint of gold leaf, and under the gold leaf, the cold alabaster, and deep, deep down under the cold alabaster, more black, only this time, the black of warm loam. Loam. But what was this? Albert Jacks? His name was Albert Jacks? Ajax? She had thought it was Ajax. All those years, even from the time she walked by the pool hall and looked away from him sitting astride a wooden chair, looked away to keep from seeing the wide space of intolerable orderliness between his legs, the openness that held no sign at all, of the animal that lurked in his trousers, looked away from the insolent nostrils and the smile that kept slipping and falling, so she wanted to reach out with her hand to catch it before it fell to the pavement and was sullied by the cigarette butts and bottle caps and spittle at his feet and the feet of other men who sat or stood around outside the pool hall, calling, singing out to her, and now, and grown women too, with lyrics like pig meat and brown sugar and jailbait and oh Lord, what have I done to deserve the wrath? And take me, Jesus, I've seen the promised land, and do, Lord, remember me, in voices mellowed by hopeless passion into gentleness. Even then, when she and Nell were trying hard not to dream of him and not to think of him when they touched the softness in their underwear, or they undid their braids as soon as they left home, to let the hair bump and wave round their ears, or wrap the cotton binding around their chests so the nipples would not break through their blouses, and give him cause to smile his slipping, falling smile which brought the blood rushing to their skin. And even later, when for the first time in her life she had lain in bed with a man and said his name involuntarily, or said it truly meaning him, the name she was screaming and saying was not his at all. Sula stood with a worn slip of paper in her fingers and said aloud to no one, I didn't even know his name, and if I didn't know his name, then there was nothing I did know, and I have known nothing ever at all, since the one thing I wanted was to know his name. So how could he help but leave me, since he was making love to a woman who didn't even know his name? When I was a little girl, the heads of my paper dolls came off, and it was a long time before I discovered that my own head would not fall off if I bent my neck. I used to walk around holding it very stiff because I thought a strong wind or a heavy push would snap my neck. Nell was the one who told me the truth, but she was wrong. I did not hold my head stiff enough when I met him, and so I lost it, just like the dolls. And just as well he left, soon I would have torn the flesh from his face just to see if I was right about the gold, and nobody would have understood that kind of curiosity. They would have believed that I wanted to hurt him, just like the little boy who fell down the steps and broke his leg, and the people think I pushed him just because I looked at it. Holding the driver's license, she crawled into bed and fell into a sleep full of dreams of cobalt blue. When she awoke, there was a melody in her head she could not identify or recall ever hearing before. Perhaps I made it up, she thought. Then it came to her, the name of the song and all its lyrics, just as she had heard it many times before. She sat on the edge of the bed thinking, there aren't any more new songs, and I have sung all the ones there are. I have sung them all. I have sung all the songs there are. She lay down again on the bed and sang a little wandering tune made up of words. I have sung all the songs I have sung, all the songs there are, until, touched by her own lullaby, she grew drowsy, and in the hollow of near sleep she tasted the acridness of gold, left the chill of alabaster, and smelled the dark, sweet stench of loam. It's the end of SULA, y'all, or that chapter. Peace.